Hi there, everyone, and welcome to the Daily Gardener, and thank you for listening. I'm your host, Jennifer Ebling. It's November 5th. Today we celebrate the man remembered as the father of American dendrology. Dendrology is the study of woody plants, trees, and shrubs. We'll also learn about the November birth flower, which was celebrated in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania on this day, November 5th. 1883. And we also recognize the botanist who was Philadelphia's botany man during the 1800s. We'll hear some words about November by an American comedian, writer, and activist. And we grow that garden library with a garden cookbook that has a southern flair. And then we'll wrap things up with a little story about a pesky otter in a koi pond in Vancouver. But first, let me just give you a quick reminder that if you'd like to participate in the Gardener Greetings segment, maybe share with us what you got accomplished in your garden this year, or just a story in general, birthday wishes, garden pictures, anything you like, go ahead and send them to me at jennifer@thedailygardener.org. That's Jennifer@thedailygardener. Make sure you spell gardener right, GARDENER.org. And then I'll go ahead and mention it on the podcast. And don't forget, you always have a standing invitation to join the free Facebook group for the show. If you're ever listening to an episode and you hear something, there's no need to take notes or search for links. All of it's available for free in the show notes over at the website at thedailygardener.org. And then all of the articles and blog posts are shared in the free Facebook group for the show. So the next time you're on Facebook, just search for the Daily Gardener Community, where you'd search for a friend and then request to join. I'd love to meet you in the group. Here's today's brevities. Today is the anniversary of the death of the botanist Humphrey Marshall, who died on this day, November 5th, 1801. The Marshalls were cousins to the Bartrams. Their mothers were sisters. Humphrey's cousin, John Bartram, was known as the father of American botany after establishing the country's first botanical garden, and he ignited Humphrey's love of native plants. In 1773, after Humphrey inherited his family estate and a sizable inheritance from his father, he created the country's second botanical garden. Humphrey incorporated natives, naturally, but also exotics. Humphrey forged a friendship with the British botanist John Fothergill, who paid Humphrey for his plant collecting. John was a collector and a connector, introducing Humphrey to many of Europe's top botanists and a growing customer list. John's contacts helped Humphrey source new plants for his botanical garden. And 25 years before Thomas Jefferson sent Lewis and Clark on their expedition, Humphrey Marshall repeatedly suggested exploring the American West in 1778, 1785, and 1792. A fellow friend, Quaker, and botanist, Joseph Tremble Rothrock, wrote this about Humphrey Marshall. The earth abounds in beauty, all of which is open to his chastened senses. He revels in the sunlight and the breezes. The songs of the birds fall welcome into his ear. The colors of the flowers attract him. In 1785, Humphrey published the very first American essay on trees and shrubs. Humphrey Marshall is also known as the father of American dendrology, or the study of woody plants, trees, and shrubs. And Marshalltown, Pennsylvania, is named in honor of Humphrey Marshall. The genus Marshallia is named in honor of Humphrey Marshall as well. And it was on this day in Philadelphia on November 5th, 1883, that the Pennsylvania Horticultural Society held its very first Chrysanthemum show in Horticultural Hall. This would be the first of several Chrysanthemum events presented by PHS to the public. Chrysanthemums have a fascinating history. In 1790, chrysanthemums were brought back from China and introduced to England, where they were greeted with much adoration. The greens and blossoms of the chrysanthemum are edible, and they're particularly popular in Japan, China, and Vietnam. During the Victorian times in floriography, or the language of flowers, the red chrysanthemum meant I love, and the yellow chrysanthemum symbolized slighted love. In China, the chrysanthemum is a symbol of autumn and the flower of the 9th moon. During the Han Dynasty, the Chinese drank chrysanthemum wine. They believed it made their lives longer and actually made them healthier. As a result, the chrysanthemum was often worn to funerals. Generally, chrysanthemums symbolize optimism and joy, but they have some unique cultural meanings around the world. On Mother's Day down under, Australians traditionally wear white chrysanthemums to honor their moms, and chrysanthemums are common Mother's Day presents. In Poland, chrysanthemums are the flower of choice to be placed on graves for All Saints' Day and All Souls' Day. Chrysanthemums are the November birth flower and the 13th wedding anniversary flower. And in 1966, Mayor Richard Daley declared the chrysanthemum as the official flower of the city of Chicago. And it was on this day, November 5th, 1896, that the newspaper out of Buffalo, New York, reported that the John Redfield Herbarium was looking for a new home. John H. Redfield was born in Middletown, Connecticut in 1815. In 1836, John became friends with Asa Gray after joining the Lyceum of Natural History in New York, where Gray was the librarian and superintendent. They remained lifelong friends. During the 1840s, Gray tried to locate a plant called the Shortia galacifolia, commonly known as the Oconee bell. Gray named the plant Shortia in honor of the Kentucky botanist Charles Wilkin Short. Originally, André Michaud had found the plant, and he'd sent it back to Paris. But ever since Michaud's discovery, no one could identify where the plant had been harvested. It was a mystery. In 1863, Charles Short died, and still no Shortia could be found. Botanists like Asa Gray and John Robinson dealt with constant taunting from comments like, "Have you found the Shortia yet?" In May of 1877, a North Carolina teenager named George Hyams was walking beside the Catawba River when he spied a plant he couldn't name. His father was an amateur botanist, and he sent the specimen to a friend. Well, somehow that specimen made its way to Asa Gray, who could be heard crying "Eureka" when he saw it. Thanks to George Hyams, Gray had found his Shortia. In 1879, Gray and his wife invited their botanist friends, John Redfield, Charles Sprague Sargent, and William Canby, to see the Shortia in the wild. Soon enough, they found the Shortia growing in the exact spot Hyams had described. It was an honor of a lifetime for John Redfield to be there with his old friend. John devoted most of the final 20 years of his life to the herbarium of the Academy of Natural Sciences in Philadelphia. John's work at the academy was both worker bee and preservationist. John made sure the early botanical work was indexed and mounted, preserving the City of Brotherly Love's precious botanical history. During John's lifetime, botanists had traditional visiting habits, depending on the city that they were in. They would visit Torrey if they were in New York, Asa Gray if they were at Harvard or in Boston, and John Redfield when they passed through Philadelphia. Botany folks genuinely liked John. His botanist friends noted his strong yet tender character when they wrote about him in his obituary. In Unearthed Words, here are some words about November from the American comedian, writer, and activist Henry Rollins. I have come to regard November as the older, harder man's October. I appreciate the early darkness and cooler temperatures. It puts my mind in a different place than October. It is a month for a quieter, slightly more subdued celebration of summer's death as winter tightens its grip. It's time to grow that garden library with today's book, The New Southern Garden Cookbook by Sherry Castle. This book came out in 2011, and the subtitle is Enjoying the Best from Homegrown Gardens, Farmers Markets, Roadside Stands, and CSA Farm Boxes. In this book, Sherry aims to make what's in season the answer to the question, what's for dinner? I love that. Sherry's cookbook offers over 300 recipes that will inspire new and experienced cooks, Southern or not, to utilize the seasonal delights from our gardens. Here's what the Oxford American said about Sherry Castle's cookbook. Sherry Castle offers a vision for Southern cuisine that's based wholly on locally grown seasonal foods. The ingredient lists are seductive on their own, but Sherry is a warm and engaging writer with the kind of practical wisdom that enlightens any kitchen. And here's what the pilot wrote about Sherry's book. Sherry formulates realistic recipes in her well-equipped but ordinary home kitchen. The proof of this pudding is in the produce, fresh with reverence and flair. Y'all dig in. This book is 456 pages of garden recipes from a true Southern hostess. You can get a copy of The New Southern Garden Cookbook by Sherry Castle and support the show using the Amazon link in today's show notes for around $4. Another wonderful option for you if you're thinking about a Secret Santa gift. Finally, here's something sweet to revive the little botanic spark in your heart. Last year, on this day, November 5th, 2019, the Global News shared a story called Koi Tremble in Fear as otter makes a reappearance in the Vancouver Chinese garden. Here's what it said. Nearly a year after a hungry otter began decimating the koi population at Vancouver's Chinese gardens, the Vancouver Park Board said Saturday the otter was spotted in the koi pond on Wednesday morning after 3 koi carcasses were found. Park Board staff began draining the pond that same day to transfer the remaining koi to a temporary holding area off-site. It's not yet known whether this otter is the same one that ate 11 of the garden's 14 prized koi fish in November of last year, including a prized 50-year-old fish named Madonna. Well, when I shared this story in the Facebook group last year, I wrote, "There oughter be a law." Well, in all seriousness, for pond owners, there's nothing worse than losing your koi. After watching the Vancouver Park measures to prevent animals from getting into the pond area, I have to say they were pretty intense. And it just goes to show that whether you're a big public garden or a small private garden, dealing with critters like this can require ingenuity and hard work. And even then, there are no guarantees. Thanks for listening to The Daily Gardener. And remember, for a happy, healthy life, garden every day. The Daily Gardener is produced in lovely Wyoming, Minnesota with the help of Paige Mance, Brooke Bierbaum, Kiana Rayleigh, Maddie Doyle, Natalie Decker, and Eric Begay. You can find The Daily Gardener on all your favorite social media. You can follow the show on Instagram, and listeners always have a standing invitation to join the free Facebook group for the show. Just search for Daily Gardener Community the next time you're on Facebook and request to join. All the stories and books that are featured on the show can be found over at thedailygardener.org, thedailygardener.org. And while you're there, be sure to sign up for my free Friday newsletter. Last but not least, you can share your own gardener greetings on the show by emailing me at jennifer@thedailygardener.org. I'm your host, Jennifer Ebling, and as always, have a great day in the garden, and we'll see you tomorrow.